Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the little delay. We are starting off. So tonight we will be looking at cybersecurity career paths and some prerequisites and qualifications for those career paths. Now, we wouldn't be able to cover all career paths, uh, within an hour or so. So we are going to look at just five, and then we will turn the rest into discussions into, what other path might be out there that probably we didn't mention, right? So hold on tight. We are going to start here shortly. We are also transmitting on YouTube. So if maybe probably you're on here and you want to go that route, you can also do so. And also for our YouTube channel, uh, that is where we are going to post the recording once we are done, probably hopefully by tomorrow. So for everybody on here who's not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you should go ahead and do so. That way, when we post anything else on there, Cyber Chat and the rest, you'll be able to have access to it. So welcome to Eretmis Cyber Chat. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu. I appreciate your time. And we do this chat every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And like I always say, you could have been anywhere else on the Friday night, but you chose to be here to, join the family, share knowledge, and learn more about cybersecurity, right? So let's get started. About myself, I'm going to be the facilitator for this as usual. Dr. Emmanuel Edu. I'm a former United States Army captain. I'm the CEO of a QSA company, a cybersecurity consulting firm, Eretmis Inc., based in New York. And then also the founder of Eretmis Academy, also based in New York. So we are going to start. What are we going to be looking at for tonight's chat? So obviously, we'll start with some cyber news, and then we will jump into the career path, the cybersecurity career paths that we are going to be looking at. And then also we will look at some of the job titles within those career paths. And then we will look at qualifications and prerequisites within those career paths, right? And then also to let everybody know, we are starting our new cybersecurity internship/workshop. It's starting on the 26th. So not this Saturday, but then the one after this coming Saturday. And then also for our PCI, we are starting a new PCI live class. That is also going to start on August 24th. That is on Thursday, this coming Thursday. So if you're interested in any of these, you can check them out on our website, right? So we are going to begin. So with Cyber Chat, we will start with our first, with Cyber News, we are going to start with our first item on the news. So as usual, there's a bridge, a hospital called Morris Hospital. I think it's based in somewhere in Illinois. They got breached, and the attackers made away with almost 250,000 individual medical data, right? So when the breach occurs, right, as part of the incident response processes, they have to, and also legal obligation, they have to announce to the public. So you might be receiving a letter stating that there was a breach and your data was involved in the breach, so your data is probably compromised. I think maybe hopefully most folks on here, you have received letters on those lines, right? And some of the information that was captured in this attack is as follows. So their name, their addresses, social security numbers, medical record numbers, codes used to identify diagnosis and treatments, the date of birth of employees, and their relevant relatives who were patients at the hospital. So PII and PHI were compromised. Now, what do you think this hospital is also going to get in trouble for? Aside being breached, I mean, you have been breached, you'll be sued by your, customers and everybody else who is involved. Now, on the regulatory side, what are they going to be hit with? If anybody wants to chime in, you can raise your virtual hand and then give your thoughts. And were they in compliance with all their regulatory requirements? I don't want to mention any requirements. I want, folks on here. Pat, go ahead.
They will have to pay fine.
Oh, you are muted. I think. Can you please start again?
This organization will have to pay some fines.
Yes, but I'm looking for like a specific framework that they were not in compliance with when they got breached.
Hello, Dr.
They were
Ado.
not in compliance with HIPAA compliance.
Yes, HIPAA, right? So there is no way if you are fully in compliance with HIPAA, not just passing the audits, but staying in compliance all year long. There's no way you're going to get breached, right? When these breaches occur, there'll be an investigation, and it's always going to come out that you were not meeting all the controls stated in HIPAA, right? So they're going to be fined, like Pat said, by the regulators who are peddling HIPAA, and then also there are a lot of headache from your customers who see you, take you to court. So when these breaches occur, you are going to lose a lot of money, goodwill, and you're going to end up on cyber education like this one, right? So you don't want to find yourself in such a spot. Now, what do you think are some of the things they could have done? We don't know the whole entire story. They were hit with a ransomware, but what do you think are some of the things they could have done to prevent this? Or probably try to minimize the attack surface of being exposed to such ransomware attack that is going to cost them a lot of money and a lot of headache. Anybody, you can raise your virtual hand. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Yes, they should have, implemented a security framework,
Okay. Anybody else?
Perhaps had an intrusion detection tool in place.
Okay. That is also a great point. I think there are some. Awini, go ahead.
Yeah, security awareness training.
Yes, security awareness training is a big one.
Yeah.
Bryant? You can, I think you are still muted, Brian.
I said encrypt the data.
Yes. So good one, right? Good one. So although they were able to breach and get their hands on this information, if it was encrypted, obviously this will be, they will capture the information, but it's not readable. So what are they going to use it for, right? It's of no use. Alan? Please unmute yourself.
I would say continuous monitoring. If they monitor, like daily or weekly, they can capture it, with the vulnerability.
Yes, yes, through continuous monitoring. Now, when it comes to breaking down such issues, right, and making it very easy for you, as a security professional, looking at this, mostly as soon as we ask, hey, what can we do, or what could have been done to, maybe probably prevent this from occurring, we should always remember to look at it from the three main lenses. So everything that everybody said, we can categorize them under people, processes, and technology, right? So some of the measures or controls we can put in place will be from the technological side. So putting in place intrusion prevention systems or solutions. Awareness training falls under the people category. Processes, continuous monitoring is a process, right? So if we look at it that way, we'll be able to come up with more options. And then also we will always be able to look at the most problematic out of the three, which is people, because mostly for ransomware, now attackers, they don't even try to actually breach your network, right? They don't try to hack, by the traditional way of trying to, use different exploits. And, you have to be super smart and, have a lot of exploits or like a lot of experience under your belt to be able to breach a company's network defenses. Now they don't do that. They get the help of employees within the company to just open the front gate for them and they come in. And how do they do that? By sending phishing emails, and somebody is going to click on it. Once you click on it, that's it. That's all that they need. So they just have to know how to package like come up with a very nice, appealing phishing email, and then have their payload, behind whatever you are going to click on. And once you click on, that's it. You just open the front gate for them. So out of all the measures we can put in place, mostly we should focus more heavily on the people side, right? So awareness training, if people know how to identify phishing attacks and they are continuously being exposed to, and there's more awareness being created on, such forms of attack, it becomes easier and second nature for them to identify even ones that will be very tricky, right? So everybody's input was great. Now let's move on to the next one. So there is a tool called Zimbra. It's a software tool that most companies use. I think they have almost 200,000 companies are using this, right? So it's a big tool. Now they also they have become a target of a big phishing campaign, like what we were just discussing. So the phishing campaigns, when like the phishing attacks are successful, there is a lot of other variants of attacks that they can, hit you with, right? So either ransomware, or they can just, like simply encrypt all your data or just steal the data, right? So there is a lot that they can do, or just sit on your network, get to or steal sensitive information, so without necessarily asking for a ransom, right? So this company also, they are battling with this form of massive phishing campaign. And how the attackers are, coming up with these campaigns is they will send you an email. If you are using this as an email solution for your company, they will send an email to one of the users, and the email will look like it's from the server's admin, right? And if you click on it, the email is asking you to update your email solution that you are using, or your activation, or like the activation that you have is coming to an end. And if you know it's not coming to an end, you'll be curious to click on it to see what is going on. Once you click on it, that's it. The attack is has become successful, right? So this also goes back to what we were discussing previously. How can we prevent this? We have to look at it through the lenses of people, technology, and processes, right? So on the technological side, what do you think are some of the things that we can do or some of the controls we can put in place to prevent this? Anybody want to chime in? And then we look at the processes side, we look at the people side, right? So technological side, what can we do in terms of controls to prevent this form of phishing campaign from being successful? Natalie, go ahead. I've seen you've unmuted yourself.
Okay. To prevent this, I think we need to engage in a phishing campaign. I think testing our employees on how to be able to sort out emails that are phishing emails.
Okay, so that will fall under the people category, right? Pat, go ahead.
Yes, and following what you said, in order to train them, you have to do security awareness training, and then you can test them, because you can't test them if they're not instructed or informed of the potentialities of opening emails, such as phishing emails.
Yes, great point.
Yes.
Brian, go ahead.
Technology you can use is a spam or a content filter, web content filter, or email content filter.
Yes. Right on the money. Great. Eliku, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say the same, like they can filter out the email based on the content of the email or how they expect the email to show up, so it doesn't get to the recipients it's targeting.
Okay, great. And now there are more solutions like that, right? Technological solutions. So they have some vendors who are coming up with such solutions. Example, Proofpoint, Sophos, and the rest. They have like email filters and spam filters, like Brian was speaking to, right? And I think somebody else wanted to also chime in. Now, when it comes to the processes side, what do you think are some of the things we can put in place for, in terms of processes that will help prevent this from occurring? Oh, is Brian's hand up from previously, or is up for?
Yeah, it was previous.
Okay. So Vic put in here training. Ike put in here. Oh, I look stressed. Yeah, I've been running around all day. All day. Yeah, SimTools. Did you have a keyword say? Okay. So there are, okay, there are some folks who are answering the questions in here. So I appreciate everybody's input, but like I said, we always have to look at this from the perspective of people, processes, and technology. So some of the processes that we put in place can be policies. So an example of a policy is that we have to probably conduct security awareness training every 3 months or quarterly, right? And other forms of processes that we might want to put in place. So everybody was right on the money. I appreciate everybody's input. So now let's move on to our discussion for tonight. So we will be looking at 5 cybersecurity career paths that you can take. And these career paths, we are going to look at like the general paths, and then we'll look at some job roles or job titles under those, and some of the prerequisites. So when it comes to choosing a path in cybersecurity, it can be very overwhelming if you don't know what you are doing, right? Especially if you want to do self-study. For folks who are starting off, you can start off with self-study, but at a point you have to, get some guidance or some training, or, get somebody who knows what they are doing, and, show you, some of the paths that you can take, right? Now, because cybersecurity is very broad, right? It has different areas or different niches within it. So chances of you, if you are just, approaching this on your own merits, you might be going one path, and you might probably, end up in a rabbit hole. You're just going to keep going. Or you might think, like what you have is enough, this is it. But then there is always something bigger, something broader than what you think, even in terms of like certifications. There are some certifications that you hear about and you'll be like, what are those? Right? They are all cybersecurity certifications. And even for certifications, which ones do you have to look at, right? So, and for folks who are starting off, right, if you are starting off in cybersecurity, we will look at that also as well, right? If you are starting off from zero, no IT background, no cybersecurity background, don't let anybody convince you to, oh, you just go specialize in here. Because cybersecurity is broad, but it's one, right? Principles, foundations, everything, they are all the same, right? Because we are doing the same thing in cybersecurity, reducing risks to a minimum level. So everything that everybody is doing, whichever path you are taking, we are all, working towards the same goal. So if you don't understand the fundamentals of that goal that we are working towards, you can't specialize in anything. Right? So we will discuss more about that. But cybersecurity is very exciting. It's very challenging. Different parts will always, if you get bored on this side, you can move on to that side. So let's jump in and look at some of the different parts that we are going to be looking at. So for tonight, we will be looking at engineering, testing, analysis, response, and auditing. So this is by no means all of it. There is more. We can break even these down, further, but we are looking at just these 5 for tonight, and then we will, discuss any questions that will come out of this. So, who is a cybersecurity engineer, or what is engineering in cybersecurity? Anybody want to chime in? So today is going to be a lot of discussion. So, from your perspective, what do you think is engineering in cybersecurity? what will engineering entail in cybersecurity? You can raise your virtual hand and we will discuss. Any takers? I know somebody won't. Go ahead, Brian.
Engineering is the process of putting the pieces together for the network and everything together after the architect has built out the plan, showed the blueprints of how everything should work.
Yes, I go ahead. Great point, Brian.
Okay, I think I like this question. Like you said, today's session will be very interactive. I really like it because to give everyone the opportunity to it to be like interactive session. So I liked it. Just like I sent you yesterday, the feedback I got from the agent that was reaching out to me to a kind of discuss with me my experience and all that. There was something engineering on it. It was vulnerability, something engineer. So I was like saying, I was scared 1 minute to say, okay, I'm not an engineer. But that's why I said this topic is like, I really want to get everyone feedback so I can. I said, but I am a cybersecurity analyst, but they are looking for vulnerability testing engineer or something. I said that. So I wanted to say, okay, I am not. Then I took it when he called me. I was able to speak on 1 or 2 things that we've done during the project. He was like, okay, I'm okay with it. I will get back to you. And he later got back to me before I reached out to you. So my understanding of the engineering part of cybersecurity is that is the main technical part of it, where you have to know the skills, the top skills that is required to perform, like when is vulnerability, what do you need to do, what is pen tester, queries, and all that. So that's like going deep into it. That's what I feel it is.
Okay, great, thank you. Awini, please go ahead, and then Julius will go after you.
Okay, so how I understand it is that within the software development life cycle, there are security. Security has to be developed along the processes. So cybersecurity engineer has to do with the fact that in each process of the system development life cycle, we have to secure using the CIA triad and then people, processes, and technology. So at each stage, we must incorporate that into place in order for security to be sufficient from end to end of the process, from server to client, or client to client, or server to server. Yeah, that's how I understand it, incorporating security into the development process from end to end.
Okay, thank you, Awini. Julius, go ahead.
Yes, I would just say it in a summary. Cybersecurity engineering, to me, would be the development of solutions, security solutions to help organizations protect their systems with regards to the CIA triad.
Okay, yeah, also good input. Thank you. Eric, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Dur. Yeah.
But
so
before you go, how is the baby doing?
Good. Yeah, he's growing.
Okay, great.
He's making me busy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in global, like in general, an engineer is someone who can get your needs and then try to design whatever you are looking for to respond to your needs. So coming back to the cybersecurity engineer is someone who is going to get the needs and then try to design and to respond to those needs. That is what I can say in general. So it depends. It could be in different industries like health, manufacture, or financial. It depends. Yeah, that's what I can say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Greg, go ahead.
Thank you.
I have a
So,
question.
okay.
Please let
Yeah.
Greg finish and then you can ask your question.
Okay. So from a technical standpoint, looking at cyber security engineer, the cybersecurity engineer is someone who can take a blueprint which the cyber security architect can provide and implement it, putting together all the nitty-gritty, putting together all the components. And these also involves coding, which had to do with like Java, Python, and some other coding experience, and also involves really technical pieces. Like for a situation, let's look at it from a data engineering perspective. You have a data architect who provides a blueprint of the architecture of data movement from one source to another to the centralized repository. And the data engineer takes that blueprint and puts the whole thing together, implementing various tools and technology and various applications, putting them together.
Thank you, Greg. Really good input. Brian, go ahead.
So, in my mind, the cybersecurity engineer would be a person that would be proactively maintaining the equipment that you have that provides security to make sure that any end-of-life equipment is replaced in a timely manner and kept up to date with the software, or whether they do it or not, they're informing those who maintain the equipment. Also, any vulnerabilities that are new that have come out, they check to see if their systems are, vulnerable to those, and make sure that the information is relayed to patch those systems and keep them up to date, and investigate any serious threats that maybe the SOC analysts report up to the next level.
Yes, also really good input, Brian. Thanks. George, go ahead.
Yes, I would say the cybersecurity engineer is somebody who actually has technical skills to bring the solutions to, let's say, to the problems that the cybersecurity analysts bring to the team, and also someone who is able to, I would say, provide technical skills to, I would say, to help the system development life cycle to be more strong, meaning that to protect the asset of the organization.
Great. Thank you, Greg. And then Alan will go and we'll take that question. I don't know who wanted to ask that question. Aminu. So
Yeah,
after.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Ask your question, and then I'll let Alan and the other person whose hand was up. Please ask your question. Go ahead.
No, sorry, Nico, I want to contribute to this engineering stuff.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, cybersecurity engineering, it involves designing and implementing secure system, network, and software to protect digital asset from cyber threat and attack. That is all I understand by cybersecurity engineering.
Great. Yeah, and your understanding is good. Alan, go ahead, and then I think the last person will speak and we'll move on.
Yeah, all my colleagues said, I mean, in engineering is design, build, and maintaining. So when we come to cybersecurity, I would say, Dr. Adu, you put it in front of me so I could read it, that one, system design, organization design, fracture, and then also the knowledge to be used for vulnerability, software vulnerability, network security. So it's in front of me that I'm just reading it. Design, build, and maintain.
Okay, thank you. I think the last person on here is Abish Heck. Did I get your name right, or I killed it?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, I have a
Please
questions like all of my colleagues was telling about. We need system design knowledge when we are moving ahead in engineering. So I just want to which kind of a system designing we have to like we have a knowledge. And I have a one question like network security is like advanced level because I'm a beginner.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So
Yes.
as we are moving forward, I think your question will be answered. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we are looking at here is a path in cybersecurity that is the engineering path, right? So we are not looking at just the job title, security engineer, but the whole engineering aspect of it, right? So how you understand engineering outside IT or outside cybersecurity is the same meaning that applies here, right? So an engineer, like a civil engineer who builds buildings and bridges, like what do they do, right? Engineers in other areas who are product engineers who are helping to build maybe TVs or stuff, like what do they do? Car engineers, mechanical engineers who will, help with the building of the car, what do they really do? Right. Now, mostly I also want to tag on architects. What is the difference between the work of an architect and that of an engineer? On any projects outside cybersecurity, let's say we have to build a bridge. An architect, what will be the role of an architect? What will be the role of an engineer there? Just two people can chime in and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I'll try that one, Dr. Edo.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the
and then we'll let
architect
Pat
is
go.
like the one who charts the way forward, comes up with the blueprint, the plan, how it's gonna be implemented. I think it sets out the environment to begin with. That's how I can put it.
Okay. And the engineer?
Well, the engineer is who works on building the entire thing after the architect is put together the plan.
Yes. Okay. Pat, go ahead.
Yes, I would say the architect is the conceptual SME. They're the person who helps, build out the landscape.
Keyword.
Yes.
Keyword, conceptual SME. Yeah, some big English word there.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Pat.
And
But I love it.
as he builds it out, the engineers, will implement it, but they'll also lean on the architect to understand positioning and posture of the technical capabilities.
I think Pat is probably an engineer or an architect, but we don't know yet. We're yet to find out. Elikum, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so an architect provides the visual design of how things need to look like, and the engineer constructs that design in a way that it actually works.
Okay. Yeah, great. Eric, and then Amino will go and we will move on.
Yeah, I wanted to say, like my previous, the previous people, architect, is a conceptual, and the design we follow that conceptual the way it has to work as the architect was planning to. But sometimes people they make those two roles as a one role. Sometimes that's why people they get confused. So they're totally different. So the engineer, we follow the guidance of the architect to put whatever he was planning to put in place. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Amino, please go ahead.
Yeah, architect in cybersecurity, they create a high-level plan for how cybersecurity measure will be integrated into system, like network and application. Why the engineer, they are responsible for implementing the security measures outlined by the architect. That's all I understand by that.
All right. So all the inputs that were given, they are right on the money. I think that Pat even explained it better than I like Pat's definition of both. So an architect will come up.
They do, just to mention it. Sorry about that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so the architect will, if we have to, so let's say, imagine a company has nothing in place for cybersecurity, right? And they want to build everything from scratch. The architect will come up with the concepts, right, of the different ways that they can go about setting up their infrastructure in terms of like security. And the engineer is going to be the one actually building it. Now, engineer and architect, they work hand in hand, right? The architect might want it this way, but on the engineering part, it might not be feasible, or that might not be appropriate, maybe based on how they are setting it up. Just like an example, if an architect designs a bridge, right, he wants it to look more fancy, but during the actual building of it, the engineer is doing more of the calculations and seeing, is it going to be, strong enough to carry whatever it has to carry? If it is not, the engineer will get with the architect. Hey, I think for this side, maybe the strengths that we are using, we need to, like, these type will not really help with the bridge. So come up with something else that might be a bit stronger, still meeting your design, but then, it's still going to meet the engineering side of the house, right? So in security, in cybersecurity is the same thing. That is why, like Eric said it, or sometimes some of the jobs, when they post it for architects and engineer, they can't, some of the, like, what you're going to be doing as an architect will kind of will overlap some of the, role or what an engineer would do, and vice versa, right? So architects, engineers, they work hand in hand in any setting, in any industry. One cannot work without the other, right? So go ahead, Brian.
Does any third parties play a part in the first stages of the design and implementing of the systems? And the reason I ask that is because, is there any third parties that have to be put in place through the engineering part, or do all the third parties come after everything has been designed and implemented?
It depends on what you're looking at in terms of third party. So if the third party is a consulting firm, that is, a security consulting firm that is going to be providing architectural, like security architectural services, then yes, they can come in. If you have an in-house architect, in-house engineer, and you have like your whole team, you can build your own. And then third parties, depending on what services that they are providing, will determine when they come into the picture. Right. So hopefully that helps, or that didn't answer your question. Okay.
Yes, it did. Thank you. Thank you.
Eric, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say that in that case, sometimes depends if for that firm, the consulting third party is fully managed. Yes, they have to be there from day one, because you will be discussing with them whatever you want, and then they will design whatever you want. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you. Because I saw some cases.
Yes. All right. So let's move on. So with engineering, the engineering space within cybersecurity as a career path, they will be doing the actual building of your security posture, right? In terms of building like your security posture, they will be doing it hand in hand with your cybersecurity architect, right? So as an engineer and as an architect, you need to be well vested in cybersecurity concepts, cybersecurity theories, right? The implementation of it, how things work. Because when it comes to the engineering and architectural side, you have to be innovative, a critical thinker. You have to understand defense in depth, how to put different controls on top of each other, right, to make it work. If you are not able to, use a certain control, even though it is like mandatory, what are you going to do to put in place other controls to still meet the goal, right? So you have to really understand security. And like I think one contributor said, with engineering and architecture, sometimes or most often you have to also know some programming, some Python, Bash, or Java, right? Because sometimes as an engineer, you should be able to, whip up some scripts to be able to solve a huge problem right? So your own script. So with engineering, you have to at least know some of those. Now, let's look at some of the job titles within the engineering path. And this is by no means all of it. We're looking at just 4. So security engineer, like we are referring to security engineer when we are looking at engineering. So a security engineer, you'll be part of the design process, but not doing the whole entire design. That falls into the architectural side and implementing the security solutions. And also, so you are actually going to be the one, building, right, or implementing. If the company already has something in place, you are also going to be continuously monitoring and checking and making sure that guesstimating threats and making sure there are no, like threats cannot easily take advantage of your network. Right now, we will look at application security engineer, similar to what a security engineer will do, but your focus here will be on software, right? So that is the only big difference. Your focus here will be on software or applications, right? So for that path, for that job title, that is going to be your focus. Now we are going to look at cloud security engineer. You are doing the same thing as a security engineer, but your focus here is in the cloud. So everything cloud for the company is going to be you keeping it, doing the building, and then also making sure you are keeping it safe and you are continuously monitoring and making sure everything is working fine. Right? If there are any changes, there are any add-ons, any takeaways from your setup in terms whether in the cloud or in a normal network, the engineer is heavily involved, making sure that security still makes sense. Even if we take some systems out, we are bringing in new ones. What measures are we putting in place to protect those new ones that are coming in also, right? And then network security engineer. Now here also your focus is on the network, although here your focus is on the cloud. So the network within the cloud, here your focus is on the actual network, on-prem network. So that is going to be the focus. Now the other job titles under the engineering path. We are going to look at some of the prerequisites. So prerequisites to become a security engineer, if you want to look at formal education, degree in computer science, now there's a lot of cybersecurity degrees out there. That is a route that you can go. And then also a lot of hands-on experience is needed, right? For engineering and architecture, you want to at least go through some internship, go through some type of training like that to be able to have a better understanding of what is going on, because it is really hands-on. You can do it. You can either do it or you cannot do it. There's no gray area, right? Now for certifications, the old certifications, Security Plus, CISSP, SIM, right? All those, even CISA will be a good certification for this role. So aside the certifications and formal education, you have to make sure that you are getting some hands-on, actually working on different cybersecurity projects within the engineering space. So with that, we are going to move on into the next path, that is testing. So what do you think the testing path in cybersecurity involves? When we talk about testing, what comes to mind? Testing what in security? Any takers, we take like 3 or 4 people and then we move. Go ahead, Eric.
When we are talking about testing, it means you are trying to test the vulnerability or any weaknesses of your infrastructure, of your network.
Yes, true. True. I'll let Brian go ahead.
He pretty much said everything. So yeah, right there.
Okay. Eliku, go ahead.
It would also involve evaluating the controls that have been put in place to make sure that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. And also, so basically trying to do penetration testing and other ways of making sure that the system is actually set up to be safe.
Okay, great. Jamal is also talking about pen testing, ethical hacking, and there are some answers in here. So for all the answers in the chat, we will revisit those, but I'll be looking at some of those as we move along. Go ahead, Dr.
I would say testing the effectiveness of the controls, but you could also be testing the processes that you have in place as well, end to end, doing some desktop simulations. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you, Dr. Juana. Julius.
Yeah, so for me, it's testing the controls that have been put in place, or examining the controls that have been put in place in terms of the design and just so that testing the design to see if they were designed in such a way that they will mitigate or they will take care of any security concerns, and then also testing the effectiveness of the controls. So, and of course, we have the different types of test controls that we have, like the preventive control. Sorry, we have administrative and technical controls. So the whole idea is just to examine these controls to see, to test, examine their design, they're testing the design, and then they're testing the effectiveness.
Okay, thank you, Julius. Really good input. Awini, go ahead, and then we will move on.
Yeah, testing has to do with the fact that we have designed the control systems, and then we have designed it according to our system, our operations or our business processes. And then we are testing the effectiveness to ensure that they are security compliant in terms of confidentiality of our systems, integrity of our systems, and availability of our systems. In that case, we have to ensure that all our applications, all our servers are compliant and are serving the intended purpose as we plan for it to serve. So testing is to assess the efficiency and the effectiveness of the controls that we have put in place.
Great. And keyword from Winnie is intended purpose, right? So with that, we are going to move on. Or Natalie, did you have some input also as well? I can see you're mute.
Yeah, I had an input.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I think from the first speaker, he talked about how securing the network. What I wanted to add to that is the fact that you don't look at it only from the network standpoint. I think you should begin from the operating system, the servers, the applications, the databases, and the network, which makes it 5. So that's like the entire process, in my opinion. That's what I wanted to add to it.
Okay, thank you. And
you're welcome.
You are right on the money. So when it comes to testing, I picked the keyword from Awini. So if you take your car to the mechanic, it has to be fixed, it's fixed. What do? You are going to test to make sure that what he took your money for to fix is actually fixed. Right? So for everything that we are doing in terms of the setting up our security building, what architect is doing, what your engineer is doing, when your systems are built up, you have systems in place, your technology, your people, processes, everything is in place and working. If we are not testing it, how are we going to know whether what we put in place and what we invested money in is actually working efficiently like it is supposed to be, or the intended purpose of it is we actually achieving the intended purpose? So that is the idea behind all testing that we do. Now testing can be from your systems, your processes, people within the company. We are also going to test them, right? So when it comes to technology aspect, we are testing everything. So your software, operating system, your servers, name it, right? And when we are developing a software, we also do testing, different stages of testing there as well, right? So testing, we are testing everything and anything, but predominantly when we want to categorize it, we are testing people, processes, and technology to make sure that the intended purposes of the controls we put in place, we are reaping the benefits of those controls, right? So what is the benefit of us, purchasing maybe like a firewall solution for 60K a year, and all sort of like it is configured well, but then all sort of traffic is just passing through. Even those ones that have been blacklisted are still going through, right? And that will be no good, right? And then also, if we train our staff on how to identify some of these phishing attacks, we have to test them. That is why in your companies they will send an internal phishing email and see who clicks on it. And when you click on it, they will, mark you for retraining, right? Because they have to test the effectiveness of whatever training they are giving you in terms of security. And that testing, we focuses on people, even though we are still using technology and stuff to do it, but our focus is on people. So when we are testing, all these three main items in security, right? So some of the job titles within the testing path, some of it, penetration testing, like Jamal put in there. Penetration testers, also called ethical hackers. So penetration testers, ethical hackers, if you want to break it down and make it very simple, it's like paying a professional housebreaker or like a professional thief to try and break into your house, right? And your intent of doing that is to for him to, after he's successful or unsuccessful, he's going to give you a list of all the vulnerabilities or all the areas or all the weaknesses within the defenses of your house or your apartment, right? So here, pen tester will act as a bad hacker trying to break into your network or breach your network. If they are successful or not, they still have to give you a report of everything that they did, identify weaknesses or vulnerabilities that they found, and the ones that they were able to exploit, they will, also let you know how they exploited it, and they will give you some recommendations on how you'll be able to fix your vulnerabilities and make your security very robust, right? So pen testers or ethical hackers, one of the same, and vulnerability assessors. So I think there is also another one that, because I'm talking about vulnerabilities, that we didn't probably add to this. So we have vulnerability researchers also as well, right? Vulnerability analysts also as well. So vulnerability assessors, they kind of include vulnerability research, trying to identify vulnerabilities and stay ahead of the vulnerability curve, to make sure that we are identifying vulnerabilities ahead of time and we are fortifying our defenses against such vulnerabilities being taken advantage of by any type of threat that will be out there, right? So like the vulnerability space is also a full-blown path that you can take, right? But it falls under the general part of testing. And then we will look at security auditors. So when it comes to testing, it's not only pen testers. Auditing is also part of testing, right? Auditors, they test your people, processes, and technology aspect of your security setup, right? So, but we will look at auditing is also a path on its own, but security auditors, what they do, they are also testing. If you are conducting PCI DSS audits or assessments, you are testing, you'll be testing some of their systems to see whether it is actually functioning like it is functioning as PCI wants it to function. If you are using HIPAA, same thing. You are testing some of their controls to make sure that it is functioning effectively as HIPAA wants it to function, right? So when we do audits, you can't just do audits in vain. You have to do audits based on a specific framework or set of best practices, right? So that we are also doing testing. But here, the testing, we are ensuring that you are in compliance with some industry standard or regulations, or some law or some rule within the jurisdiction in which you operate. So some of the prerequisites, if you want to get into the testing part, obviously, when we look at the formal education side, still degrees in cybersecurity, in traditional IT space will help. Also, if you have business degrees, they are also, equally good, right? But generally also degrees in any other area is also good. But if you are just sticking to, formal degrees, specifically looking at this, but that doesn't mean if you don't have a degree in computer science, you cannot move into this side. And a degree is not necessarily required for all cybersecurity paths. You don't necessarily need a degree, right? For certifications, the ones that are listed here, we can include CISA also as well, since we are doing some auditing, right? So ethical hacker, this is a very popular one when it comes to people who want to take that path. Offensive security, offensive security certified professional, OSCP, is I'll say the baddest among all of them. With this certification, unlike ethical hacker and the rest, we have Pentest Plus and the rest. With those ones, you are going to write an exam just like all certifications. With OSCP, there is no exams. You are actually going to hack. They are going to give you 24 hours, give you 5 IP addresses, and you have 24 hours to breach or hack into those IP addresses. And there are some capture the flag activities. So you hack into it. How do they know you're able to breach into those? They've hidden some numbers or some code somewhere, either on the desktop of that system or somewhere in there. So you have to breach those systems and be able to capture those flags. And you will, on their website, you make an input. And then after you've done that for the 24 hours, they have 5 systems. When I did it, they have here 5 systems, 2 Linux systems and 3 Windows, I think. And for all of them, there are different, they have like different exploits that you have to use to be able to breach those systems. So with OSCP, you either can do it or you can't do it. You are not going to read and answer any questions. After you've done, you have 24 hours to also come up with your penetration testing report and submit it. So if you're able to, I think if you're able to, if you are successful in, hacking into 4 out of the 5, you are going to pass, and then you submit your report, right? So it's pretty cool for folks who want to go that path. But there is a lot of practice and a lot of, try and error. In ethical hacking, is a lot of try and error because you don't know whether the exploits you are using it will work. Sometimes it will just lead in, you are just going down a rabbit hole, so you have to stop and go find some other exploits, right? So, but that is all part of the fun, right? So we'll move ahead with the next path, that is analysis. So with the analysis part, what do you think we do in the analysis part? Go ahead, Brian.
The analysis part is almost like being a dispatcher for 911. You're going to get calls in where they're going to be prank calls. You're going to get calls that's less emergency, and you're going to get calls that's a real emergency. So like the analysis, you're like the eyes and you're like the brain. When you see something, you tell somebody something. When something comes across, you see if it's a legit reason to tell somebody about it, or if it's not a legit. It's called a false positive and a false negative. So you are the eyes and the ears and the brains of everything that's coming in, where it's like a login or a system trips or something like that. And once that signal goes off, you have to decide what you're going to do with that information.
Great input, Brian. Anybody else want to add to this? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not adding to that. I just I just want to get a clarification on the slide before this one where you talk about the vulnerability assessor. And the clarification is, how do you differentiate that the vulnerability assessors and the other role called those who do bug bounty? Is it the same thing, or there's a difference between both of them? Please help me understand it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So what Natalie was asking about is bug bounty, right? So have Have anybody heard about that? So bug, B-U-G, bounty.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody knows what that is?
Yes. I'll try.
Okay, give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it has to do with trying to find the bugs in a system and then getting compensated for it.
Yes. So let me break it down. So bug bounty, you know how I think like there was a show, bounty hunters or something, right? Where people who are running away from the law, some people will go catch them and bring them in and they get paid.
That's correct.
Right. So similar thing on here. The bug bounty program within the cyberspace, people who are doing the bug bounty, they are hackers, ethical hackers or penetration testers. Now, these are freelance penetration testers. What they do is for companies, right? Most companies who have that program, that the bug bounty program, most companies, big companies should have it. It is part of your vulnerability management program. And what that program entails is this: your company will set up a fake network to mimic the original network, right? So you set up similar to like a honey net, right? So a network that is exactly the same as your network. It has everything on there, but it can be like a virtual network, not necessarily you don't have to set up. If you have like a normal on-prem network, it doesn't have to be that way, right? Now, after you have that set up, what they do is they allow anybody in the world who will register to be part of their program to continuously try to hack or try to use different exploits to identify vulnerabilities within the network, right? The bigger vulnerability you find, the bigger your pay. So if you're an ethical hacker and you don't want to go work for anybody, or you just want to be freelance ethical hacker, you can join different bug bounty programs from different companies. And if you are really good at it and you're able to come up or you're able to identify huge vulnerabilities monthly, you get paid, bigly, if bigly is a word, right? So that is bug bounty. What they do is they are ethical hackers who are hacking into different honey nets for different companies. And if you are really good and you are identifying good vulnerabilities, you let the company know. They have like a process you go through and fill out in their forms and everything. And they will check it out. They also make sure that, okay, yes, indeed, you found this and we actually have it. Then they will pay you, right? Some folks are making like 20K a month from that. Some people are making nothing, right? So if you don't find anything and you spend 4 days trying to break into their system and you don't find anything, you don't get paid anything, right? So that is the bug bounty program. And these programs, they are set up by different companies. So different companies have it. If you are like specific, mostly if you're a software company, at least you should have it, right? Because what it does is it helps you to identify vulnerabilities ahead of time. Because if you don't, attackers will find it and they will use it against you, right? So hopefully that helps.
That has helped. I think everything you said is spot on. I came across it reviewing how you call it, an attestation of compliance for the Slack chatting network for one of company that I work for. So when that came up, I saw it there and it was noted by the assessment company. I think that was Shellman that did the assessment for Slack. So
Okay.
that's where I heard about it. So I was a little confused about it, but yeah. So.
Oh, okay. So yes, and for also just to add to that, for companies who are really serious about security, they should have a full-blown vulnerability management program. And as part of that vulnerability management program, bug bounty is going to be one of them. Also on there, they should have a program where if any random person from anywhere discovers any vulnerability within their systems, how they respond to you approaching them and telling them, hey, I found this, you know, they should have a program in place where they get back to you within maybe 12 hours or 24 hours, right? Because there are some researchers, they don't get paid. All they do is research into vulnerabilities. They will find vulnerabilities within your systems and they will let you know. Now, some companies are, I don't know what some of these companies are doing. You approach a company and tell them, hey, you're a software company, I found this vulnerability within your software, and they will totally ignore you. So guess what some of these researchers will do? Like these researchers, they are kind of like crusaders. If they approach you for first time, second time, you ignore them, they will publish the vulnerability and let everybody know you have this vulnerability. And guess what attackers are going to do? Oh man, it's like Christmas for them. They'll just jump on there and they'll start exploiting that within your software, right? So you don't want that. So mostly if they approach you and you don't do anything about it, and for these companies, if they had a good vulnerability management program in place, they will have some processes in place to address, you know, such findings as well. And bug bounty should be part of the vulnerability management program that they have in place, and your vulnerability scanning and all that, everything else will fall under your vulnerability management program. So hopefully we learn something from that also. Thanks for the question, Natalie. That opens a different area. And I think there was a question in here in the chat.
For the clarification.
Okay. There was something in the chat where, okay, I think Leonard was asking the difference between testing and IT auditing. So testing is a path, right? IT auditing falls under the auditing path, right? So we will look at IT auditing here too shortly. So testing covers pen testing. Forensics also falls under testing. Your like software testing, all that falls under testing. Auditing kind of also falls a little bit under testing also, but it's also a standalone path on its own, right? All right, so let's move on. So analysis, I think Brian just killed it, right? You are going to be applying a lot of critical thinking. You are going to be thinking outside the box. You are going to be observing and making decisions and judgments based on what you see, right? So you have to, for you to really function well in this area, the key, key attribute here is attention to detail. Attention, I mean, if you don't pay attention or you ignore details, you wouldn't be able to function here well, right? Because the example that Brian gave, if probably you are working as a SOC analyst, you are watching, or you are the one monitoring traffic coming in and out. If you are not paying attention and something is just happening, something that is abnormal is happening, you wouldn't be able to catch it, right? So, and you also don't want to be the one running around with every single little thing because you've not studied the pattern. You think everything is an event or an incident, right? So with the analysis part, there are a lot of job titles within this space. And this space also really makes use of all the soft skills that you have coming in from all other areas, right? So within this path, wherever you've been working at, whatever skill set that you've acquired will help you on this path, right? Because tell me where you work and I'll be able to tell you the skills you are bringing to the table that is going to fit perfectly for this path. And everybody, regardless of what you've done in the world, or even if you've not done anything, you will still be able to function in this path. You just have to pay attention to detail. Now we are going to move into some of the job titles. So cybersecurity analyst, are very obvious. Information assurance analyst, risk analyst, all that will fall under this. Threat intelligence analyst will fall under this. So for security analyst, cybersecurity analyst, you are going to monitor and analyze the organizational systems, making sure that your people, processes, technology, everything is working well. And then also if there are any improvements, if there are any response to threats, it's going to be you, right? And like I was saying, attention to detail is very key here. Threat intelligence analyst, you are also going to be still almost doing similar to what a security analyst will be doing here, right? And mostly what I always preach is don't get too hung up on job titles. You can be a security analyst doing the job of a threat intelligence analyst. And so, but at least there should be a title to the job that you are doing. So with this, you are going to be the one responding and also staying ahead of potential threats. And you should have a really good understanding of emerging threats and vulnerabilities that are there, right? Now, another big one in terms of job titles, Security Operations Center Analyst, SOC Analyst. You hear SOC Analyst a lot. It falls under the analysis part that you can take. So with SOC Analysts, they monitor, they analyze activities that is going on your network, servers, endpoints, databases, and other systems to detect unusual behavior or unusual happenings, right? And also they are mostly they are the first point of call, or they are the first group that will identify incidents and do the first initial identification part of it. And then they are going to spin up or push it to the incident response team for them to take it from there, right? Intrusion analyst, similar to what your security analyst and threat intelligence analyst will do. But here, they also kind of work similar to what a SOC analyst will do. If there is any intrusions, they are the ones who are equipped to deal with such intrusions. And mostly with these, with SOC and with this, you are going to be using a lot of tools that will help you to really identify and analyze stuff as quickly as possible, right? So everything you'll be doing here, you are going to be using tools, but the most important tool in these two roles is you, right? The tools can present you with the data, but if you don't understand the data, you cannot analyze it, you cannot make informed decisions based on the data you are getting, then the data is really of no use. So let's look at some of the prerequisites. So if you are looking at the formal side, you don't necessarily need a degree to start anything within this field. But if you need a degree in computer science, a degree in information security, a degree in cybersecurity, all help. A degree outside that will also help. Now, when it comes to certifications, all other cybersecurity certifications will help you at least contribute to the knowledge and the skills that you need to be able to function here effectively. So Security Plus, Security Analyst from CompTIA. You also have CISSP and SIM and the rest from ISACA and ISC Square. Now, this is just a break before we move on. So we are starting our new PCI DSS class on the 24th. Now we are going to look at the next path. I think this is the fourth one, and then we'll look at the last one. So the next path that we are going to look at is the response path. Now, what do you think we do in the response path? 3 people or 4 people, and then we move on. Response in cybersecurity, what would that entail? Go ahead, George.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
So the response will be after identification of what your threat is, then you come up with you'll come up with some strategies how to if there's a risk, how to remediate the attack if the attack is has already happened. But basically, your primary function will be to come up with strategies to respond to whatsoever attacks or breach in your system.
Okay, thank you, Kofi. Aliku.
Yeah, so most times companies have plan of action should a breach, like certain types of breaches happen. They have like an SOP on what to do. So it would involve either doing that, and if it's something that they have not no plan for, then I believe the people who are working in this field as cybersecurity specialists would then come up with a plan to mitigate the incident.
Okay, thank you. Arini?
Response has to do with the fact that we need to have an incident response plan, which should be a committee of members from the organization, which should include members of the senior management, supervising a team that are able to identify an incident and report for the team to declare. Most of the times there is something they call call tree. So when an incident happens, there are hierarchy of information that you have to, communication that you have to do. For instance, if it is a data breach, the data owner should be informed first before any other in the organization. So they have the plan in place, how to respond, how to mitigate, and how to ensure that it doesn't have great impact on the organization in order for them to minimize losses.
Great input, thanks. So in security, everybody is going to get breached. It's just a matter of when, right? So just let that sink in. At any point in time, there's going to be an incident within your company or within your setup, right? Now, an incident, and also we have to know the difference between an incident and an event. So an event is something that is not going to cause a huge issue. It's not really going to stop your activities or the operations of the organization, right? So an example of an event, Dr. Edu came to the office, he tried to turn on his workstation, and the power system to his workstation just went, right? My laptop or my desktop is not working, or I turn it on and it's not coming on. So I just call help desk, come and help me fix it. That is an event. Right? It's not really going to stop anything that we are doing for the day as a company, right? But an incident, we come to work, we turn our computers on, and there's a ransomware attack. So, I mean, there is this badge on our laptop, and it's asking us to pay money, and it's on everybody's desktop. Nobody is able to access their systems, or we are not unable to access the company's network. That is an incident, because nobody is working for the rest of the week or something like that, right? If there is a DDoS attack where we are being flooded with a lot of traffic and our servers, go down, we wouldn't be able to work. So that is an incident. So an incident is something that is going to cause a grave impact to the organization. An event is really, it can be an adverse event, a bit negative, but it's not really going to hit us that much. So incidents are bound to happen. It's just a matter of time. When they happen, how are we going to respond to it? Right. So when incidents happen, how are we going to respond to it? When you go to driving school, right? One of the things they'll teach you is if you are driving in the snow and your car starts, sliding to the left, what are you supposed to do? Right? Why do they teach us all that in driving school? If you are driving and one of your tires just go poof, what are you supposed to do? Now, you might say, well, I'm driving the top of the line car. It's never going to happen to me. How do you know? It's just a matter of time, right? So you have to be prepared for it. Now, with organizations, they have to put in place measures to deal with incidents when they do happen, because they are going to happen, right? They are going to happen. So you have to be prepared for it. Now, that is why we have this path, right? We need folks to be able to work in the response portion where they are going to help us to deal with anything that is happening in terms of incidents in our company. Now, companies that will, really suffer much when there's an incident and lose a lot of money, they are companies who are playing or toying with response, right? If you don't have an incident response team in place, you don't, you are pretending you have it because you have like your jail-free, cards, which are your incident response policies and security policies. So owners of company and C-suites will not go to jail if something happens. Well, you can have that and just, put it in some box somewhere. Nobody is implementing it. But when there is an incident, you are going to, really feel the impact, right? So this is why we have the response path, right? So what everybody said was right. How we deal with incidents when it happens is the response, is everything that we classify under response. How are you going to respond to an incident when it happens? That is as simple as that, right? So within this space, there are some job titles that we are going to be looking at. By no means all of it, but these are some of it. Incident responders or incident responder. They are going to be kind of your first line defense, your first line of defense if something happens within your organization. So incident responders will, if that is your only job within the company, which mostly is not going to be, they are going to have you do other cybersecurity activities in there as well. But most companies, they have a dedicated incident response team. All they do is incident response, right? That is for companies who can afford it, right? If your company cannot afford it, they will have you do other things, and then they will, you'll be part of the incident response team. Some companies will also outsource their incident response activities to a third-party company to deal with it. And there are some companies, so within the response, it's not just you working within the space. Some cybersecurity companies, that is their specialty, response. So they do everything incident response. So if you want them to handle your incident response, they can be your incident response 24/7. If something happens, they have all the structures and everything in place, they will take care of it, right? And companies who are able to respond to incidents within a very, swift manner, they are the ones who are not really going to feel the impacts. But companies who will be hit with a very light incident, if they don't have any structures in place for incident response, they'll be all over the place and it's going to take them longer and it's going to be more painful. They're going to lose more money. Right? So hence the space incident. So incident responders, they respond to incidents and they try to also, they don't wait for the incidents to happen. You have to be proactive as well. So what they do is they also work with security analysts and everybody else to try to put in place controls to mitigate the occurrence of incidents. Right? Now we have cybersecurity incident managers. So managers, they guess what they'll be doing? Managing incident responders and managing incident response teams. We have forensic analysts. They also fall under incidents. And for them, they are going to be the ones conducting investigations when an incident occurs. So there are a lot of them for the different types of frameworks. They conduct they conduct investigations when there is an incident, and the investigations, the goal of the investigation is to really get to the bottom of what really caused the incident, right? Where did it start? Just like how we would do any normal investigation if a crime has happened, right? So how we do that investigation on the crime side, or that is the same way we do it, but here is more technology. We are looking at like technology, people, and processes, right? So with this path, or like with this, you also have to know, sometimes you have to know some programming as well for forensics to be able to effectively, because there'll be some instances where you have to, be able to come up with your own code to be able to gather some information or see how things played out during the attack. Go ahead, Kofi.
Would it be safe to say that the incident responders, they are part of the red team?
No. So incident
No.
responders are not part of the red team.
Okay.
Now in security, when we talk about teams like red team, blue team, now we have purple team, we have white team, but originally it was just red and blue. When we talk about red and blue, we are talking about offensive and defensive. So just like if we are going to war, in the military, we have just two main things that we do in war. You are either attacking or you are defending, right? So it's offensive and defensive. Just like how we have it in football, American football. You are either attacking or you are defending. So in security, information security, our blue team is our defense team. Our red team is the offense. So the red team falls under testing. So your ethical hackers, your like those folks, right? Stress testers and the rest. That side is your red team. Now the blue team, incident responders, analysts. So everybody else who is not trying to attack your system to identify vulnerabilities, they are on the blue side. Right. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that helps.
And now we have a mixture. We have purple and white, and so during there are some instances where in some companies, those who can afford it, they will have programs where they have a blue team, they have a red team. So red teams are actively trying to attack, blue team is actively trying to defend, and then they have like referees who will be like white teams trying to mediate what is going on, and there's a purple team. So purple team can attack or defend, and they are just making it crazy now with like teams, but traditionally it's just random. So we can move on. Now for response prerequisites, you don't necessarily need a degree to start. You have to have strong problem-solving skills. Also here, attention to detail, and most important than everything else, you should be able to work under pressure, because there's going to be a lot of pressure, when an incident, a real-world incident happens, and everybody's, running around, trying to figure out what is going on. There's going to be a lot of pressure on incident responders, folks who are working under response, right? So if you are looking at degrees, traditional IT degrees or even non-IT degrees, will still play out good. Now for certifications, any certification, right? Security certification will help, because you still need to have the fundamental understanding of security to be able to function effectively in this space. And you should also have a very good understanding of the concepts when it comes to responding to incidents. So these are some of the prerequisites. And we move on to the last one, that is going to be auditing. So with the auditing space, also I need like 3 people. What do you think we do under auditing, the auditing path? Go ahead, KG. Also, Kofi, I think Kofi was first. You can go ahead, Kofi. Okay, Irene, you can go if Kofi's audio is not coming.
Okay, so auditing is a process of evaluating systems, controls, and management policies to ensure that it meets the intended objectives of management and achieve the process of delivering the mandate of the organization using laws and regulations and best practices. So where there are no laws and regulations, we use best practices or the organizational policy.
Okay, great. Thanks for your input. Anybody else want to chime in or auditing. Go ahead, Ike.
Okay. I think in auditing, where mainly what auditors do is to review and test existing controls when it comes to access control, change management, privileged users, and account directly. Like, okay, the people that grant access to people in the system, do they have the right to do that? Do they have the proper approval to do that? Then when people are terminated, it's called in auditing terminated users. Those people that are terminated within certain time, the auditors go to review the process of that termination. Do they have the letter of termination? Has the access been denied in so time? So they go back to say, okay, this access was not denied. They need a letter from HR to say the person is no longer there. So breaking it down, when they get this letter, they go back to say, okay, this person access card is still working. So that means this person could enter this company anytime when the person was already disengaged from his contract. So basically what auditors do is reviewing those access control, the change management, who authorized the change, who permitted it, is the person in position to authorize those changes that was made in the system. So they review it, they say it's good or not. So they review, test, controls, and report their findings.
Okay, thank you, Ike. Saeed, go ahead, please. Or did I get your name right? I mean, it's just SYD. I'm saying Saeed. I don't think.
Okay, that's it. That's
Saeed.
it.
Saeed.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Du. Auditing to me is a process of evaluating the entire system to ensure it aligns with the organizational policies, standards, and regulations. So whatever the system is put in place, an auditor's job is to be sure that it aligns with the objective of which it was built for in the first place. And that's going to be done under the confinement of the CIA.
Okay. Thank you. Really great input. Eric, go ahead.
Yes, on top of what Sid just said, the auditors, they go also deep on employees to see if you are in, for example, in a position, you you have all the requirements to occupy that position, and also to see if for all the based on the business you are in, you meet the requirements of the regulation, if it's a financial or health, whatever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Eliku, and then Kofi will go.
Yeah, so I believe auditors come with the task of ensuring that companies meeting the requirements of the industry in terms of what the industry has set as a baseline to be able to ensure, in this case, that the information, the processes, and the systems adhere to the industry, what the industry has set up as the minimum to ensure security of data and other assets of the company.
Thank you. I think Kofi will be the last, and then we move forward. Go ahead, Kofi. Kindly unmute yourself. Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So the auditors or audit process involves people with the expertise knowledge. You can say that they are subject matter experts. What they do, they come to review current security posture set up by an organization, making sure that the organization is giving them like feedback or report from the audit to show that the staff and the organization is meeting all necessary requirements to stay fully compliant. And also some of these audits, the audit can be an internal. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
The audit can be an internal or external audit. So internal audit would be like on ad hoc basic, where evaluating systems and processes and people within the organization. And an external audit can be, one with the organization just making sure that they are covering all bases for staying compliant by bringing experts from outside to conduct the audit. So I think that's what the audit entails. But most of my colleagues have already said the type of audit that is, the type of system that is reviewed, like the controls. And I also want to add like the security infrastructure set up by the company for the process of auditing.
Okay, thank you, Kofi. Great input. Jermaine, and then we will move forward. Go ahead, Jermaine.
Thank you. So basically, auditing are pretty like a testing. We test the people, processes, and technology. Auditing is evaluating the control against standard, policy, law, and best practices, all together to make sure the CI trial is maintained and all the trust service principle are being followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I appreciate everybody's input. Everything that everybody said is right. It explains auditing the auditing path in a different light, right? So with the auditing part, like we discussed briefly in the testing path. Now, when we set up our security infrastructure, we have to test it, or like we have to make sure that it is working as intended. So one way of us doing that is, through testing. Another way is to go on the path of auditing. So with auditing, it's not just testing to make sure that our measures that we put in place internally, they are working. Mostly, we also have other obligations. So other obligations that might be driven by law, by where you are living or where you are operating as a business. It might be also mandated by the industry, right? So if by the industry, you have to follow certain rules and regulations or some best practices, then there has to be somebody to evaluate your company to make sure that indeed you are following those best practices or rules or regulations, or you are not, right? So if you are not, then you have to, whatever you are missing, you have to fix those, and then you have to meet those requirements, right? So because we have an obligation to follow certain rules and regulations within cybersecurity. Some of these rules and regulations are set by the government, others are set by industry players, others are good practices for us to follow, right? So aside just us internally trying to check to see that everything that we put in place is working effectively as we intended it to be, there are other external obligations in terms of laws and regulations that we have to follow. Now, I'm going to give some examples of these, some of the external regulations or laws and regulations that we have to follow. Some are mandated by the government. An example for the ones that are laws by the government or regulations or standards, anyhow you want to look at it, that we have to adhere to is HIPAA, right? HIPAA is a law set up by the United States government, and everybody or every company that is dealing with health information from patients, they have to stay in compliance with HIPAA. You have no option but to stay in compliance with HIPAA. The only way you will get out of not staying in compliance with HIPAA is not to work in the health space. So if you're a company that is working in the health space, then you have to stay in compliance with HIPAA. If you don't stay in compliance with HIPAA, you can be fined. They can probably just stop your operations within the health space if you are like notoriously failing all your audits. Company owners can even go to jail if you don't. So this is like a serious business. It's not, if you like, you follow it or not. So for how is the government going to ensure that you're actually following the HIPAA best practices? They have certified, they have to put in place certified auditors who have gone through training, who have been certified by the government agency responsible for HIPAA to come and do the audits. So if they do the audits and they say you pass, it means you pass. So you can take that certificate and present it to whoever you report to make sure that you passed. And for these audits, all of them are annually. Almost all of them, they have to be done every 12 months. Right. Go ahead, Kofi. You are muted.
Yeah, I also wanted to add to the process of the auditing that sometimes the audit identify fraud, waste, and abuse. And in that case, where that entity is doing business with the government and that fraud, waste, and abuse involve government expenditure, you can be fined or go to jail as well within the process. So
thank you for the input, Kofi. Yeah, thank you for the input. Well, and so we are looking at the other aspect of like the other laws, regulations, or standards you have to follow, right? Some example of the ones that are mandated by the industry, SOC 2, PCI, and others, right? And there are other ones. So SOC 2 is not not really mandatory for software companies, but if you want to be competitive, then you have to stay in compliance with it. PCI is mandated. You can't get around it. If you are accepting credit card and debit card, and you are processing, you are transmitting or storing credit card or debit card information, then you have to stay in compliance. Whether you're a government agency, whether you're a health agency, wherever you are, in terms of industry, you still have to stay in compliance, right? So that forms the foundation for our auditing path. Now, these are some of the auditing job titles, not by any means all of it. So cybersecurity auditor, you are going to be evaluating and testing controls as it pertains to security policies, strategies that the organization has, and you'll be using at least some standard or some rule or best practices to really do these audits. So all these audits, you cannot just do the audits, because you're an auditor. You have to, there has to be something that you are using as the grading rubric, if you want to look at it in a very simple way, to grade what the company has. So IT compliance auditor, you're also going to be working similar to a cybersecurity auditor, but specifically cybersecurity. If you are just following your job title and not doing anything outside, as you do, then you are focusing on just cybersecurity. With IT, you are focusing on IT, not just cybersecurity, right? With security controls assessor, you are focusing on security controls. Right? So, but some of these job titles, you are going to do more than is required within these job titles. So that is it. For prerequisites, you don't need a degree in IT or a degree in anything to be able to move into this path. But if you are looking for a formal degree, then computer science, cybersecurity degrees, degree in law is also a big one here. Business degrees are also very advantageous. And for you to be able to function effectively in this space, you have to be very strong. You have to have strong analytical skills, right? Because you'll be analyzing a lot of controls, a lot of measures, and for you to say that like the organization passed that control or passed that requirement is going to be based on your professional judgment, right? So you as an auditor, you have to really understand what is going on. You have to have a very good foundation in cybersecurity to be able to audit anything. Now, most folks, they think if you want to get into cybersecurity, the most easy part and non-technical part is auditing, which is not true, because if you don't understand security, how are you going to audit somebody's security, right? So when they talk about technicality, it's not just coding and the rest that is technical, right? Understanding security concepts is also technical. So you have to be able to make sure that you have a good working knowledge in all major areas of cybersecurity to be able to function effectively here. Now we are wrapping up. That was the last one that we looked at. Maybe some other time we will look at other parts as well. Our PCI class is starting 24th. And we have the expert specialist training. For everybody on here, if you've not already taken any of our free courses, Cybersecurity for Beginners on our website, eretmisacademy.com, and then also PCI for Beginners will give you some very good insights into PCI and then also in cybersecurity in general if you are looking to jump into cybersecurity. Now, if you are looking to bridge the gap between knowledge and skill, right? If you've taken some training, you have some certifications, but you are looking for real world hands-on experience in the cybersecurity space, then our internship/workshop program will be the best option for you. That is also started on the 26th. Not this Saturday, but the coming Saturday is going to be our first meeting as a group. So you can look into that also as well, right? And with all these, we have different payment options available for everyone that works well for everyone. So we are wrapping up. I know it's almost 2 hours into it. Now, if there are any questions for the group, you can bring it up. If not, we are going to wrap up and we will meet again next week, God willing. Go ahead, Prince.
Well, I have a question about your PCI DSS class.
Okay.
What's the difference between the specialist one and the expert one? What do you get with the expert one that you don't get with the specialist course?
Oh, with the expert. So the difference between the two, with the expert, you are getting the training of a QSA, the knowledge and skill of a QSA, right? We will be trained on how to perform external audits as a QSA. So you can work in a QSA company, literally, help with PCI assessments or even do some of it, but you are not going to be the one signing off or putting your name on there if you don't have the title QSA. With the specialist, you are being trained to work in any company that has to stay in compliance, helping them to stay in compliance, right? So with the expert, you can work either in a company that has to stay in compliance, or you can work in a QSA company that is doing the audits, right? And for anyone who is also looking to maybe set up shop in PCI, the expert portion is going to help. If you want to consult in PCI, the expert is going to help. Now with a specialist, you can also work effectively as a PCI professional. I think Eric has a question.
Yes, it's not a question, but this is something I noticed for the two positions, like a cloud security engineer and a network security engineer. They tend to overlap the system security engineer and application security engineer, because most of the time when you are on a cloud as a cloud security engineer, you go all the way from layer 1 to the layer 7. But when you are taking care of, for example, application, you are just dealing with layer 7 only sometimes. That's what I noticed.
Okay. Thank you, Eric, for that clarification. So I think Robert has a question in here. He's asking, is it necessary to pursue a master's in cybersecurity and gain knowledge if you don't already have any background in cybersecurity? So if you don't already have any background in cybersecurity, even if you do, let's say you took a cybersecurity degree and you want to move on and do a master's before you actually work in cybersecurity, my answer will be get a job in cybersecurity first before you do anything masters in cybersecurity. Because what you think you are going to learn in masters in cybersecurity is not what you are really going to learn in masters in cybersecurity. Okay, so if you don't have any background and you jump into masters for like a master's degree in cybersecurity, you are only going to do yourself a disservice, right? When you are done, you still have to come back to us to be able to, learn the fundamentals and go get the foundation to go get a job, right? So what I encourage most of our students to do, and the ones who follow this advice, they've really seen the benefit out of it. So some came there, I want to go do masters. Hold your brakes. Maybe go through entry level, do internship, get a job, and then go do masters. And some companies will even pay for your masters, right? So now you are actually living, working as a cybersecurity professional, encountering problems. So in the master's class, things will start to make sense. And at the master's level, you are mostly going to read and write papers. You are not really going to have any hands-on as you think you might, have. So don't be in a rush. And that, the master's degree is not what is going to get you the job. Frankly, it is not. So, and two, you don't want to be a master in cybersecurity and you don't know anything. So I will take the path of trying to, go through some sort of training bootcamp, 6 months, 3 months, 4 months, get certifications, be an industry student, get a job, and then you can go into masters. Degrees are good, right? But if you jump into masters, you are getting ahead of yourself. You are going forward and you come back 10 steps before you'll be able to catch up with your masters. So I've seen that too many often. So if you take the advice, go get a cybersecurity job first, get some training first, get a job, and then you can go do masters. And I encourage everybody to, if you have the opportunity, if you get a job and you're working in security, as part of improving yourself, get a degree or masters or something, right? Because it is going to help you eventually when you are getting up there, right? In terms of you're trying to be a CISO, it's not like you need it, but it's going to be give you that competitive advantage. Right? So hopefully that helps. Julius, go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Zhu, I just wanted to draw your attention to the email that I sent to you regarding my enrollment yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. So you've been added to the list. So you receive an email that will be sent out probably by Monday.
Okay, good. At least I can sleep in peace now.
Yeah, Julius.
I fought a good battle.
Yeah, you did. Doc, go ahead.
For the PCI expert, is there an applied side or a hands-on workshop piece to that as well?
Yeah, there's 2 months of internship to that.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Alan, go ahead.
Class. You can't hear me. Let me put it high. I'm in the entry-level security class. I know the cybersecurity workshop is coming on August 26th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already on module 8. All I have to do is the module 5, which is a hands-on practice.
Mm-hmm.
Can I join the internship program? Am I eligible to join? Huh?
So yes, we will look at you have almost a week. Try and get as much as you can in module 5, and we will put you in there. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, and I think there were some questions in here. We will look at that briefly, and okay, I think all those were answered. Okay. Dog put in there cybersecurity. Okay, so that was to answer some of the questions that we had. All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. So, like I said, if you've not taken any of the free courses, please do go on our website, Eretmis Academy, and you'll be able to get your hands on either our cybersecurity. So for everybody, if you are starting off, you have no clue what cybersecurity is about, our cybersecurity for beginners course is a really good starting point, right? And also, if you want to pursue PCI, our PCI for beginners is also a very good starting point. Okay, Kofi, go ahead, and then we'll wrap it up.
You didn't address Eric's question. He made a distinction between two job type, and I was hoping to speak to what he mentioned.
I think Eric was making a comment. If I got that
It's
wrong.
a comment. It's a comment. It's a comment. It's not a question. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Kofi, you good? Or you you didn't get? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. We're wrapping up. I think we are way over time. We are still meeting next week for Cyber Chat. During the week, all classes are still going to go on. I wish everybody a great weekend. And like I always say, I hope you got something out of this, right? So Cyber Chats, you're always going to get something out of this, and it's a good learning experience environment for all of us. We are family. This is where we learn. This is where we fail. That way, we are going to be rock stars on the job. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend, and if you need to get hold of us, everybody on here at least knows where to get hold of us. Our numbers are on our website, Eretmis Academy. You'll be able to get hold of us. So thank you very much. We'll meet again next week for Cyber Chats. Have a great weekend.
Have a good week.